all of a sudden it hit me, I need to go to NASA's website to look at when these eclipses are occurring on the biblical calendar. Because in Genesis 1:14, many people misunderstand that verse, which is so significant. When we think of why did God create the sun and the moon, we think it was for light. But the Bible says the number one reason, go and look in Genesis 1:14, he created the sun and the moon for signs. And then it says for seasons. Well, the problem is English. When we read the word season, we think of winter, spring, summer, or fall. But that Hebrew word doesn't mean that. As a matter of fact, in Leviticus 23, when it talks about the feasts of the Lord, that word feast, what do we think of when we think of feast? We think of food. Well, it's the same Hebrew word. So how can that Hebrew word, the same one, be translated as food here and winter in Genesis? It doesn't mean either one. It literally means an appointed time. That's why the biblical calendar for the Jewish people was based on the new moon, because it's on the new moon is the only time you can have a solar eclipse. And that's why the feasts like Passover and Tabernacles are on a full moon, because you can only have a lunar eclipse on a full moon. So God's calendar isn't the Muslim calendar, the Gregorian calendar, it's the biblical calendar. And so I made that connection, and then I go back and I look, and you wouldn't believe it. The first blood moon happened on Passover. The next one was on Tabernacles. And there was a solar eclipse on Rosh Hashanah, for heaven's sake, 2 weeks before the other lunar eclipse. And then in the next year, there also was a total lunar eclipse on Passover and Tabernacles. And I just was so shocked. I thought, well, how often does that happen? And I looked, and the time it happened before was 1967 and 68 when Israel captured Jerusalem. And the time before that was when Israel became a nation, 1949, 1950. And the time before that was 1492 when all the Jews were kicked out of Spain. And so I just was blown away, and I knew that it had to mean something, and I would never claim that I knew what it meant, but I knew it had great biblical significance.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's just, when I first read your book and began to understand the blood moons, you know, when you read Joel and it says there'll be